You thought he was done? You thought the takes were too hot to handle? You better think again. He's back with even more scorching opinions, more controversial predictions, and the kind of truth bombs that only Zain Bando can deliver. If you missed the first round, prepare yourself. This is the follow-up you've been waiting for. It's time for Zain Zinger Part 2, another certified hit from the Empty the Bench Network. Here's your host, Zain Bando.
What's up, everyone? We are live. It is Zain Zinger Part 2. It is Saturday morning. It is a little bit after 11:30 a.m. Central, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. Hope you all are doing well. Again, another edition of Zain Zinger Part 2 as we get everybody in to the stream. We're on a bunch of different platforms today, YouTube, X, and so much more. Hope all is well over on just everybody's agendas, if you will. Thanks to those who have already begun to come in. But nonetheless, I'm Zain Bando. Thank you so much once again for coming in. Again, it is Valentine's Day. Busy day, busy weekend in the world of sports. So hope you all are doing well. Just overall, hope you all had a good week and so much more. It should be a fun stream to be had here. So without further ado, let's get into a few things. Zain Zinger Part 2, obviously, as we know, this is usually on Sundays, but this week it's on Saturday because I am traveling tomorrow. I'm going to Champaign for the Illinois-Indiana game, so it just made more sense to do it today with the start time of the game being 1 p.m. Eastern and it being on CBS and getting down there at a decent hour, so just figured I'd let you guys know. So in theory, for the most part, you could catch every Sunday episode and or replay on YouTube and X as well. But yeah, it should be a fun stream today. We'll go back to Sundays moving forward, which means you will get a Bando's Blitz tomorrow morning in place of what would have been Zain Zinger. So stay tuned for that. Let's not waste any more time, though, and get started with the stream. A couple topics to discuss today over the next 30 to 45 minutes or so. We have a little bit of extra time today, so we're going to use that wiggle room. And yeah, so with that said, without further ado, here we go. So NFL withdrawals, welcome to the off season, and that is right, because we are in the off season for the NFL, which is crazy to think about. It was only 7 or so months ago that we were talking about the NFL season and it beginning and whatnot, and who we thought was going to go to the Super Bowl. My initial pick for the Super Bowl was wrong. I thought it was going to be Kansas City versus Green Bay. Obviously, Kansas City missed the playoffs entirely, and the Green Bay Packers fell to the Bears in the wild card postseason. So my Super Bowl pick was dead wrong. As we all know, Seattle defeated the New England Patriots as well, which means we are officially beginning a brand new offseason as such. And shout out to those who are tuning in on Twitter as we're live on, again, a bunch of different platforms as well, the ETB Network YouTube channel, and those breakdowns, and of course my YouTube channel as well. So if you want to come in, ask your questions, and let me know what you're thinking, it would be greatly appreciated. So there's that as well. But speaking of withdrawals, though, there are withdrawals because you miss football. Football's gone for the next 7-8 months or so. And yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say other than the fact that, you know, it simply is what it is. You know, we're now at that point of the season where we start focusing on or point of the year rather, where we start focusing on spring sports and all that good stuff as well. And yeah, I mean, really, the only thing to really note here about these withdrawals is, you're not going to know what some of these teams look like. You won't know fully what Seattle looks like. Are they going to re-sign Kenneth Walker? You don't know if New England is going to get receiver help. You don't know if Aaron Rodgers is truly dead set on staying in Pittsburgh. You simply don't know what you don't know, and this Super Bowl was the direct correlation of that. Seattle versus New England was one of the most unlikely Super Bowls that you could have ever gotten, and that's the Super Bowl that came about, and of course Seattle won. So yeah, the offseason is here. The new league year doesn't start for quite a while, as was mentioned on the final edition of Football Forecast for the 2025-2026 season, where we finished the year 135, 148, and a couple of draws against the spread. We were way over 500 straight up on the year, so happy about that. We did pretty well in the NFL front this season, and in fact, I have the records to show for it while we're on this topic here. Give me just a brief moment. And yeah, thank you guys so much for your patience just with the stream and just everything else around that, because sometimes the connections here can be a little funny. But nonetheless, where were we on that? It was like 45 and 21 for what do you call it? Bando's blitz, and then I'm pretty sure we were in like the 174 plus range for records, 500 or better, for the for just overall, like on Yahoo Sports and all the pick'ems I do and stuff like that. So pretty good season for the most part. Can't complain. I'm just a little upset that my Super Bowl pick did not come to fruition, but nonetheless, though, at least we had a pretty good Super Bowl. And at least we had some parity there, given that New England had an instant turnaround, and so did Seattle. So there's that as well. All right, let's kind of move on now. We're going to nauseate football for a long time as the offseason gets deeper and deeper into it. Let's discuss some UFC now, though. So for those of you who haven't seen it, earlier this week, I think it was Tuesday that this was reported, Paramount Plus sent out a press release saying that UFC 326, a portion of the card, is going to be shown live and free on CBS terrestrial TV. So I'm going to explain what that means for those that are only know the Paramount side of this. I'm going to go deeper into this, and then we'll talk about some White House rumors, and we'll also talk about Tom Aspinall, what I think the UFC is going to do with him, what I think the UFC should be doing with the heavyweight division, and all that great stuff. So, UFC 326, in a nutshell, the last two fights on the undercard, meaning the last two fights on the prelims, will be shown on CBS, and the beginning of the main card will also be shown on CBS as well. So you'll get 4 fights in total from 8 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, March 7th. So that's how that's going to work. You will get the entire card on Paramount Plus like you normally do, but if need be, you can go over and in Paramount, you can watch the regular CBS broadcast of these 4 fights I'm talking about. And again, they're not fully fleshed out. The order is not fully done yet, but it would be the final 4 fights of or the 4 fights with 2 at the end and 2 leading into the upper portion of the main card. So leading into the future fight of the main card. Nonetheless, though, this is a huge deal. And the reason why I say it's a big deal is because I think it's one of those things where the UFC knows that they have to start this Paramount deal off with a splash. Okay, and they know that Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira, this rematch will drive a lot of eyeballs. Okay, this rematch will drive a lot of intrigue. This rematch will drive fanfare. This rematch will drive ticket sales. And most certainly, this rematch adds to the mystique of what already is a belt that a lot of people don't consider legitimate. Well, these two guys are former champions in their own right. Charles Oliveira was a former UFC lightweight champion, and Max Holloway was a former UFC featherweight champion. Okay, so these are two of the most BMF centric fighters you could possibly get, to where there really aren't any other fights that make logical sense for a BMF other than the one that they put together in Las Vegas. So I think this precursor, by doing it on CBS, by telling people, hey, here's a flavor of what to expect throughout the night. If you haven't already subscribed to Paramount, go do that. You get a great deal for $13.99 a month. You get every UFC event for free. You get, well, most of the archive. It's not the full archive, but it's certainly most of the archive that you get on the app. The full archive is not up yet. I've already ranted about it. I'm not going to waste any more time until the library is fully functional. But it is worth noting that this is going to be a regular occurrence for bigger UFC events. The UFC is going to do this. It's going to do this to drive everything I just said. But more importantly, it's going to get CBS, meaning those three letters, at the forefront of what the UFC is trying to do and what they're trying to build in the United States as a free model, to where if you pay this a la carte subscription, essentially you get anything and everything you could ever want. So not only that, it shows the inclusion of what CBS is trying to do. They're not just trying to raise advertisements. They're trying to get people to scroll on their televisions, realize nothing else is on, and then turn on whatever their local CBS affiliate is and watch a portion of the card. And maybe it's the first time people have ever watched the UFC. So they're genuinely interested in what is truly going on, which I think would be very cool. If they're able to convert new fans out of this, and then they're like, oh, we have this event coming up in Miami, and there's a rumored, I'm not going to say where it is, but there's a rumored numbered event on the East Coast, potentially in May, that I think could draw a lot of eyeballs. It's a location that, usually does fairly well and has hosted some big fights. I'm not going to say where the location is, but it could incentivize people to go, oh, this is interesting. I didn't realize that this wasn't a seasonal sport. This is a year-round sport that I can watch really at any time. They only have 9 off weeks a year, and this happens to be one of them on the day that we're recording this. On Valentine's Day, there's no UFC tonight, and there's no boxing. So therefore, you have 1 week for a bit at least. You have 1 week until probably the beginning of June, I would guess. There's probably not going to be a card the week before the White House card, I would assume. Or maybe it'll be the week before they go to Macau. But I'm pretty sure there's not going to be a break for about 8 to 10 weeks after this week. So enjoy this break while you can. But I think this could get, someone, who's younger to say, hey, I like this now because I saw this on free TV. It's not going to be like the Tough Boom, I don't think, where people tuned into Griffin Bonner and people are like, you need to watch the Masters over this. It's going to be a new generation of fans that say, the first time I saw the UFC was on CBS. And that's how I became a fan of it. And I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to do exactly that. They're going to tune in for the first time, ask what the heck this UFC thing is. And now with the advantage of social media, there's so many things you can look up now. There's guides on how to, become a UFC fan and how to become an MMA fan and how to follow the whole sport and the rankings and all that. I'm sure there's going to be some guy out there that's going to say, hey, I'm interested in watching this product because it was made, because it was provided to me on free television. And I think that's the hook. They want at least, 10, 15, 20, 30, 100 people to turn off their TV, whether it's, they only watch those 4 fights and they choose not to subscribe, which, again, I get it. But they're going to want to say, okay, we got a bunch of new people hooked. Let's bring them back for the next one and the next one and the next one. Then there's guys like me that have been in the trenches since the Spike TV era, we're like, this is old hat for us. We're just excited that it's on free TV. But there's going to be people that are going to be scrolling that night, realizing that nothing is on, and then going, okay, let's check out UFC and let's see what this really is all about. So I'm excited to see what could come of this. And I'm also excited to just see how the quality of the fights are going to be, because at this present moment in time, on Valentine's Day, with the event a couple weeks away, still no confirmed co-main event of the evening. So very interesting to see what might happen. Let's transition now to some college basketball. The game I'm going to tomorrow, Illinois, Indiana, and it has a very interesting storyline. And for those of you who follow me, you guys know that I cover Illinois pretty extensively for the Sporting News, and I've done so also for Illinois on Sports Illustrated. I've done so for Writing Illini as well, which is a part of the Fansided Network. Now, pretty much all my work is over at the Sporting News if you want college stuff. But if you guys have been following the season, you know that Illinois had won 12 games in a row before losing back-to-back games to two very good teams. All of a sudden, one of them coming out of nowhere a bit. The Wisconsin Badgers, Illinois lost to them 92-90 in overtime earlier this week. And of course, Illinois lost to Michigan State in overtime this past Saturday in East Lansing in a great game. So Illinois has lost two in a row for the first time this season, but they've done so on this 12-2 run that they've been on without two of their stars in Kylan Boswell and Andrei Stojakovic. And head coach Brad Underwood spoke to the media today. I wasn't down there. I could have been down there today if I really wanted to, but Brad Underwood spoke to the media today at Auburn Basketball Complex, which is where the team practices on a daily basis, and gave a very interesting update about the status of Kylan Boswell and Stojakovic. So we're going to play that in just a second. And Underwood was very candid when he said what was really going on with both of those guys. And I'm curious to see what you guys think of my reaction to this as it's starting to circulate across social media. So I appreciate you guys. And by the way, for those of you who are attending tomorrow's game, please be sure to get there early. It's a stripe game, so half of the stadium at State Farm Center is going to wear orange. The other half is going to wear blue. So would appreciate it if you guys showed out. If you're an Illinois fan, Indiana fan, or just a college basketball fan in the area, I would appreciate if you guys showed out, because it's going to be a great game. It's on CBS, so even if you can't make it, it's free to air. Again, another reason to get Paramount Plus, you get free CBS. So let's hear what Underwood had to say here, guys. Appreciate you, and let's pop it up. Here we go. And then let's... Here it is. So this is Brad Underwood at today's media availability. Video is courtesy of Scott Ritchie of the News Gazette, one of the best in the business.
Kylan is practicing. We'll see what that status looks like as we get closer to tomorrow noon. In terms of being able to play, we sure don't want to put him out there not somewhat close to healthy and 100%. Andre has been dealing with a high ankle sprain, a decent amount of pain and soreness. So we'll see what his status is. It's never good to be down two starters, especially to your guys with experience. So thought we competed, thought we had opportunities against Wisconsin. Obviously, Wisconsin's playing very, very well, and made some shots. Little things, details, process we've gotten away from. Part of that's just not maybe emphasizing it enough on practice. That's on me. Just simple things, blockout rates. Um, you look at what our blockout rate was in the Purdue game and then our blockout rate in the Wisconsin game, and there's a 24% difference. You look at our offensive rebounding rate, all-time low against Wisconsin. Um, those are details that are very, very important to us and success, and we didn't do that.
So basically, Underwood admits there in that clip, as you guys can see, is basically he admits in that clip that he's not 100% confident that that either of them will play, which I think against an Indiana team that's been a little shaky as of late, I think is more positive than not. Obviously, you don't want to run the risk of losing those guys. For the home stretch, obviously they have a West Coast trip coming up between USC and UCLA in about a 3-day span next week, and then of course a huge game against number 2 Michigan looms in about 13 or so days at State Farm Center, and then obviously you end the year senior night against one of the worst teams in the conference in Oregon. So, it is what it is. I mean, will they play? I don't know. I would like to think that they will play. The discourse on social media seems like Illini Twitter is optimistic. I have not been told anything exclusive that either of them will play. If I did, I would break it on here and tell you guys and tell you to stay tuned. But like everybody else, you got to write the same update and just say, you know, you don't know. You're not going to know until the availability report comes out tomorrow morning, a couple hours before game time. So it is what it is. And for those of you who don't know, Stojakovic has an ankle. Okay, he didn't play in the Wisconsin game. He tweaked it during the Michigan State game. And then, as we know, Kylan Boswell injured his hand as a fracture in practice and has been out a month. So he's, I think, out of the 12-game winning streak, he played in 6, and then he's missed 8 games, I think, in the injury, because the injury was January 19th and the Minnesota win was the 17th, I think if I'm getting my timetable correct. So nonetheless, there's still a lot to be decided with this game. It's obviously a great game every year. Indiana plays really tough. Last year was a blowout, but the last couple Illinois-Indiana games have been electric. The game in 2024 was awesome. The game in 2020 was pretty good. From what I recall, the game in 2022 was a really good game. So they've played some good games. Obviously, Indiana broke Illinois' heart in the Big Ten tournament in 2022. Illinois was, I'm pretty sure, number 1 seed that year in the Big Ten tournament, and Indiana upset them. I think they were able to win a couple games, and eventually Iowa won that tournament against Purdue, from what I recall, that year in the championship game in 2022. So, they bet some good games over the years. Maybe this one will be interesting. I mean, I think Darian DeFries has his guys playing pretty hard. I mean, you look at some of the numbers, behind this game, and I guess let's go through the numbers while we have a chance here, if we can do that. So here we go. So, So by the way, a stripe game note while we're here, and I've been to a few of these games since they started these. So, tomorrow's game is going to be the 6th stripe out game. Okay. And the previous matchups, I went to the first 2. I went to Indiana in March of 2020, which they won. I went to Arizona in 2021, which they lost. I did not go to Syracuse, but they won that. And I went to Tennessee. So so far, I've been to 3 out of the 5, and tomorrow will be 4 out of 6, only missing Syracuse and Indiana. So I've been to a bunch of these games before. It's a great atmosphere. Again, it's a Sunday afternoon game, so it gets people out, it gets people excited. It's a national TV game. I forgot that the Ohio State game last year in Champaign was not a stripeout game. I was almost positive it was, but now that I'm remembering, it was not. So should be a fun time at SFC. It's a sold out game. So is the game against Michigan. People are still, putting out resale tickets, of thinking that Michigan is going to be number 2 or number 1 if Michigan keeps winning. It certainly looks that way. But Illinois right now is in a tight race in the Big Ten. It's currently sitting at number 2. You like some movement today. If Northwestern upsets Nebraska, that could be huge for Illinois. If Michigan loses to UCLA, that game just got underway a couple minutes ago in Ann Arbor. That could be a huge upset swing type momentum. If, Michigan State just lost last night, if Michigan State keeps losing, that might be good. If Wisconsin somehow slips up, which I don't know, Wisconsin arguably has 3 of the best wins in the country. And that kind of moves me over to my college basketball outlook here. As we get closer to the end of the stream, we'll probably go about 35, 40 minutes. We still have a few more topics to get through, but it kind of moves into a perfect segue. College basketball has been a nutty year so far, but, when you look at the Big Ten, there's just so much movement. You just don't know with some of these teams, but what I do know is Illinois, to me, has 2 of the best road wins in the country. I think that's what sets them apart from some of these other teams. They have road wins against Purdue and Nebraska. Those are gigantic resume wins. And then you look at a team like Illinois that's only lost 2 home games all year, and one of them is to Nebraska, and the other one is to a Wisconsin team that's got to be pretty good. So, you look, and the resumes to me are very strong throughout the entire top half of the league. I think is very interesting. And I think some of these teams are separating themselves. Can Wisconsin remain in the Big Ten title hunt? I don't know. But what I can tell you is I'm excited. I'm excited to see what may transpire from some of these games today, some of these games tomorrow, some of these games next week. Like, it's going to be a great end to the Big Ten season. And, when you get to March in the Big Ten tournament in Chicago, all bets are off. And I'm just excited to see how this college basketball season ends, because I think it has a chance to be unbelievable. So figured I would mention that as well. Zuffa Boxing 03 tomorrow night, Meta Apex in Las Vegas, the main event. Martin versus Degbu or Ojegba, or however you pronounce his name. In the main event of the evening, it's a heavyweight fight. It's an 8-fight card as well. Let me go over my picks for that card while I have you guys here. By the way, we are 12-4 for the first 2 Zuffa boxing events in 2026. So we're looking to keep it going with another solid outing on Sunday evening only on Paramount Plus. Of course, let's take a look at the event itself while we have a chance. I appreciate you guys just sticking with me here. Ojegba versus Martin. Yep. So this Sunday, tickets are still available at 6 Eastern start. Charles Bosicker is the matchmaker. I think he's been doing a good job. I think he's an underrated matchmaker, and I think he's done some good things. I got Charles Martin winning tomorrow in the 4th round by TKO. Hoping that works out. We're taking Dizenbekov by decision, Major by decision. We've got Reese tomorrow, Woods tomorrow, Gant tomorrow in an upset, Moline and Kuzmenov. Hoping to go undefeated and hoping Dana gets out some good prospects. Although Charles Martin is the biggest name on this card as well. So should be some exciting stuff on the Zuffa boxing front. And again, it's free, Paramount Plus. All you need is a subscription. You will be able to watch Zuffa Boxing 03. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as we move to the end of the stream, it's time for my favorite topic of this rundown. What the heck is going on with the White House? The short answer is we have no freaking idea. We don't know what's going on with the White House at all. We have no clue. We may never know what's going on with it. No, I'm just kidding. We will know at some point what is going on with it. But at the time that we're recording this, unless news is broken, which I don't think it has because I have Twitter notifications on everywhere, there has been no announcement in regards to what the heck is going on with the White House card, who's fighting on it, the bout order, any of that crap, and who even the main event is. So let's talk about the White House card while we have a chance here, because you guys deserve to know my feelings on it. We haven't really spoken about it on an extensive level. We probably will at some point. Me and Jack Gold on the MMA Outsiders, we've been arguing back and forth. I don't know. I don't know how to feel. But what I can tell you is the Tom Aspinall situation sucks. Let's put our money where our mouth is here. It sucks. It's disappointing. It makes people look bad. What are you gonna do? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna try to make people happy, but it may come at the expense of some. So let me explain. So Tom Aspinall obviously has this severe eye injury. He's been getting operated on it now. There was that huge story, Pete Carroll uncrowned. People have differing opinions about it. Was it just a fluff piece on Aspinall to get people to, I don't know. But what I can tell you is this. The heavyweight division's in a fragmented spot. Jalton Almeida just got cut from the UFC despite an 8-3 record. John Jones apparently has arthritis. We don't know what's going on with Alex Pereira. He wants to go to heavyweight. He tweeted this 1-2-3 thing or 3-2-1 the other day. And he wants to go to heavyweight. And we don't know what's going on with Cyril Gane. We have no idea if Cyril Gane is sitting out. We have no idea what's going on. But what I can tell you is this. The UFC is in a position to where the clock is ticking and they have to make a decision. So they have a few options of what they could do. They could shelve Aspinall for however long until he gets healthy and he's still the champion. Okay. He could silently vacate the belt, okay, to get Jones and Pereira to fight for it, or Pereira and Gane, whatever the heck they want to do. Or they scrap the plans completely, not the White House plans, but they scrap the two ideas that I just had, and they say, look, Aspinall was the heavyweight champion. He was unfairly poked in the eye. We will wait for the rematch as long as we need to wait. But then again, if Aspinall can no longer fight again, those other two options I just said come into play. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this. It's Valentine's Day today. I know it's supposed to be a good mood kind of day, but I'm just going to say this. Tom Aspinall is not fighting at the White House, which means a few things. Alex Pereira is in play. John Jones is in play. Conor McGregor is in play. Ilia Topuria could be in play. Sean O'Malley could be in play. The fact of the matter is he looks so injured and his movement looks so off that there's no way that they would risk him headlining the White House card for the fight to only get canceled weeks before. It would be a disaster. Be a disaster. They can't do it based on the stuff that's now coming out. There's absolutely no way. They would be taking on a liability that would be non-recoverable, in my personal opinion, if they were to put him out there. So they're not doing that. So I'm just going to tell you straight up who I think is going to be on this card. So the main event of the evening is going to be Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz, number 3. It's the only fight that makes sense. Not going to do Masvidal because of the size difference. You're not going to do Chandler because for whatever reason the UFC doesn't want to give Chandler a fight. It's as simple as that. They will give Chandler, to me, the loser of Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira. That's my guess because Chandler is also on a losing streak. They will give him a guy that's coming off of a loss because they know it's going to be a fun fight. So it's going to be McGregor versus Diaz, 3. Chandler versus whoever loses in Vegas in March. Then they're going to do some crazy shit. I think you're going to do Ilia versus Islam. I think it's legitimately happening. I think the Russian rumor of no Russians on the card is bullshit. Okay? I think it's total BS. I think if you want the White House card to be a event that people will never forget, you have to give them the biggest fight that can be made right now, which is the welterweight champion versus the lightweight champion, except this time it's on Islam's terms and not Ilia's terms anymore. So I like that. So those are 3 fights right there. Then I think you do Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. I think you got to do that. I think you do either Merab Dvalishvili versus Peter Yan, or you do Merab Dvalishvili versus O'Malley. And I know what you're thinking. Zan, O'Malley just beat Song Yadong. The fight was somewhat close. Sean O'Malley is a massive star. I don't think they would put him in a non-title fight in front of the president and expect his people to be excited about that. They need O'Malley fighting for some sort of belt. So I think if the chips were down and they really needed to do it, they would give O'Malley the title fight. So to me, that's what they might do. So have Merab versus Peter Yan and or Sean O'Malley on the card. Okay. Now rounding out the card, because there's only 6 or 7 fights, we're gonna do Kevin Holland versus Colby Covington. I think that fight makes a lot of sense. And then I think you do Ian Gary. You'd probably have to do Ian Gary. I would say do Ian Gary versus Joaquin Buckley. I think that would be a fun fight. And I know that Ian Gary said he's in camp. I don't know who he's fighting, but if I'm him, I think him and Joaquin Buckley is a hilarious fight because both guys know how to talk. So I think that fight makes a lot of sense. And then maybe you do one more fight. Maybe Macy Barber wins her next fight. Maybe you put Macy Barber on there because she's expressed interest in fighting at the White House too. So that's the card. That I think is the dream White House card. You're going to get 3 title fights potentially, and then 4 really good, high-quality name fights that people know about. Then I'm probably missing Bo Nickel. I don't know who you'd put Bo Nickel against. You got to give him somebody easier or somebody that he could probably beat because he's an American. So I'd say Bo Nickel's on the card. That's my guess. So with that said, everyone, that's going to do it for another edition of Zain Zinger Part 2. Really appreciate the 13 people that dropped by this morning to just hang out with me, shoot it up, and chill out here. I don't know. I feel like I'm one of those famous streamers, but no, I'm just kidding. Nonetheless, though, that's going to do it. Let's do some housekeeping items before we go, because I appreciate you guys. You guys deserve to know what's going on. You guys are loyal listeners to me. So be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to follow on social media at Bandos Breakdown. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. You can also get Bandos Breakdowns wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, for those of you who've never seen me before, my name is Zain Bando. I'm a sports journalist and an ETB Network co-host. Check out my work everywhere. Sporting news, MMA Knockout on Sports Illustrated, Dallas Wings on Sports Illustrated, Ohio State on Sports Illustrated, and many other syndicates across the internet, posting about 6 to 7 times a day across everything. So shout out to everyone who's interacted with my content, and please be sure to stay tuned. Bandos Blitz tomorrow morning, clips to come from episode 77 as well. So would be appreciated if you guys interacted with those. A lot of good stuff that's going to be coming out here. So would appreciate it. We're going to be back next week for another edition of Zain Zinger Part 2 next Sunday. Next Sunday, back to normal. And Bandos Blitz will be back on Saturday, and all will be well and good. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great Valentine's Day. If you have a significant other, treat them well. And if you're digging college basketball, go ahead and lock in. There's 130 plus games today, and I'm sure a lot tomorrow. So until next week, and until the next time that we're all on a collective stream, from me and everybody else at the network, have a great day. Again, enjoy the weekend, and please stay tuned for more content to come. We've got Christy Wilson with Between the Ropes later today. Sure, a lot of good stuff to come out of that. And of course, the ETB Lounge is moved for this week to Sunday with Nick DiMartino and a bunch of the guys as well on Sunday night. And then, of course, back to the regular rotation. We've got Press Row. We've got another edition of Lounge, I'm pretty sure. We've got a bunch of stuff in the pipeline as well. And we could be adding some newer, fresh faces to the network here in the near future. But until next week, I'm Sam Bando. Thanks so much. I appreciate you all. Cheers and have a good one. Thanks.